So, recently I was in UK about a fortnight ago, I was there for 1 month, and I was speaking at a university where they study Hinduism studies. And there was this British boy who said that I am studying the Mahabharata as a part of my academic studies. And he said, the two sides in the Mahabharata, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, both of them are just as bad. Both of them did bad things. And therefore, both of them are bad. So his point was, actually, it's very difficult to decide who is good and who is bad, because everyone does good things and everyone does bad things. And everyone is a mix of good and bad. So, do you agree with this? What do you think? So, there are three different things over here. So are some things bad? So what we are going to discuss today is, broadly speaking, when do bad things make a person bad? We all may sometimes do something which is bad. We get angry with someone, we speak harshly, maybe we lie to someone, and we may think, actually, I'm sorry I did that. That doesn't make me a bad person. Don't treat me like I'm a bad person. But sometimes some bad actions do reflect a person who is bad. So today what we want to discuss about is human character and human motivation. How do we judge people? How do we evaluate people? Say if you want to be friends with someone, if you want to have a relationship with someone, if you want to have, say, work on a project with someone, have a business partnership with someone, even if you want to practice bhakti and have devotional friendship with someone, have someone as a devotional guide, how do we trust someone? On what basis do we decide that somebody is a good person or a bad person? So, is this a question that is relevant for you? We all have to decide this, isn't it? So, the question here is that when do a person's actions, so somebody is doing bad things, so is this a reflection of their character? Or you did this bad thing, therefore you are a bad person? Or is it an exception for their character? What does exception mean? Have you heard this word exception? What does it mean? Sorry?
Give a chance.
It's a one-off thing. It's not what they normally do. It's an exception for their character. It's something which they normally not do, so therefore we should give them a chance. It's not who they actually are. So, if somebody promises that I'll do this thing and they don't do it, they say, I'm sorry, I forgot. Now, does that mean that they are irresponsible? Does that mean that they are forgetful? Or does that mean they should just neglect it, oversee it, and just continue on as things are? So let's see how we can decide these things. So before we do that, let's try to understand a principle that when we are trying to evaluate someone, that life is difficult. And sometimes we just don't have a good choice. See, basically, there are choices which are moral, and there are choices that are ethical. Have you heard this word, moral and ethical? So, moral choice generally is involved where one choice is, moral choices are where one choice is good and one choice is bad. Now, in this case, what happens is, we just need strength of character. We need strength to decide this is a good thing and I should do it, this is a bad thing, I should not do it. But ethical choices are where there is good on this side and bad on this side. And there is good on this side and there is bad on this side also. So then now I have to decide which to choose. So for example, say a friend gave us some food to carry. Can you keep this food with you? When say the friend gave us some sweets to keep. Can you keep this with you some time? I don't have space in my luggage. And then say they give the food and we looked at the food, hey, this is delicious. The temptation, we ate it up. And then the friends, can you give that food back to me? I can't find it. I think somebody stole it from my bag. So yeah, somebody stole it from my bag. That somebody was my own greed. So we may want to lie over there. So this is a straightforward moral choice. This is good, this is bad. And if we speak a lie, that's just because we don't want to look bad in their eyes. It's very clear what is right and what is wrong over here. But suppose there were a situation, say, where there is a riot going on, and say our friend belongs to the community that is being targeted in the riots, and that friend comes to our house, please save me, and then we take our friend and hide them in some closet in our home, and those rioters come and pound on our door. Is he here? Now, should we speak the truth? Why not? What do you think? Is it that confusing?
We're trying to save our friends.
Yes. So saving a friend's life is actually a greater value than just speaking the truth. So there is good on one side that okay, I'm speaking the truth. But there is good on the other side that I'm saving somebody's life. There is bad on one side, oh, I'm speaking a lie over here. But it's bad on the other side, actually I'm costing this person's life. So there is good and bad on both sides. So here we just need moral strength to do the right thing. But here we need moral wisdom to know which is more right and which is more wrong. And many of life's problems fall in this category. I hope the difference between moral and ethical is clear. And the ethical problems, there is good on both sides. But there is, which is the higher good, we have to decide that. So with this, so the Gita, which is a part of the Bhagavatam, is actually guiding us in such situations. Okay. So in fact, when Arjuna says, I can't fight. Why is he saying I can't fight? Family relationships. Okay, that's one reason. Anything else? Sorry? His gurus are there on the other side. Then he's afraid of sinful reactions. Anything else? He has compassion. Unwanted progeny. He doesn't want dynastic destruction, basically. Dynastic destruction. So all those are specific reasons he is giving. But actually underlying that, there is a dilemma. And Arjuna is torn between two things. On one side is his Kshatriya Dharma. As a warrior, he should be fighting. But on the other side is his Kula Dharma. These are members of his own Kula. And he thinks killing people of my Kula is not cool. It's a terrible thing to do. His whole limbs start becoming hot. So I can't do this. So the idea is, some people think Arjuna just became cowardly. Arjuna did not become cowardly. Because not once does Arjuna express fear of his own death. The entire first chapter, not even once, they say, I'm afraid of my death, that's why I don't want to fight. If he has fear, he's afraid of doing the wrong thing. And he's not sure what is the right thing over there. So there are two things, and there could be arguments on both sides. You're a warrior, you have to fight. But you're a member of your family, this is your family, you have to protect them. What do you do at that time? So Arjuna is caught in a very difficult situation. It's like, say, suppose there's a police cop, and very exemplary cop, heroic policeman. In India, we don't use the word cop, do we? In America, they use the word cop for police people. So have you heard the word cop? They use it here also? Sorry?
They use police.
Police, yeah. Yeah. Police, sorry. But you know the word cop. Sorry? Newspapers, they use it. Okay. Anyway, so there's a police person. So this policeman is very heroic and has caught many criminals who have been very difficult and dangerous to catch. And he's told, there is this deadly criminal in this area, go and catch him. And he's so dangerous, if he tries to run away, shoot him. And then he goes into that area, catches that criminal, and he says, stop or I'll shoot you. And the criminal starts running away. And the policeman has raised his gun and the criminal slips and falls. He falls, he rolls over. And the criminal turns and he sees, actually this criminal is his own long lost brother. Now what should he do? Should he act as his police duty and shoot? Or should he act with his brother's duty and not shoot? It's not an easy decision, isn't it? It's a difficult decision. So Arjuna is facing a dilemma like this. On one side is a Kshatriya Dharma. As a warrior, he should fight against aggressors. But when those aggressors are his relatives, when those aggressors include his venerable elders, then what should he do at that time? Take this particular example and you can make it more complicated. That say, that person who is running away is not his brother, is actually his uncle. So it's a respected uncle who has been long lost. Now as an elder, how can he shoot that person? Isn't it? So Arjuna is caught in an ethical dilemma. It's a difficult choice. So, with this background, when Arjuna turns to Krishna and says, please tell me what is the right thing to do. When one is pulled by two duties and neither seems easier to follow, what does one do at that time? So, neither seems, it's not easy to decide which is the right thing to do, what to do. So this is an ethical dilemma. So with this, now let's look at the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Let's try to make a list of the wrongdoings. What wrongs did the Kauravas do? What wrongs did the Pandavas do? Let's make a list and let's try to evaluate. Okay? So, what are the wrongs that the Kauravas did? Let's start from the sequence beginning. Sorry? Desire of? Okay, so anybody can have any desire. We can't blame people for their desires. Now, if we started blaming people for desires, nobody would come out of the jail. Isn't it? What are the wrong things that they did? Okay, let's let's try to do it whatever you can. I'll put the numbers afterwards. So you're saying something? Yes. How did they try to kill him? Yes. So poisoned Bhima. Then they tried to disrobe Draupadi. Anything else?
Wanted to send the Pandavas out of them.
Wanted to send Pandavas?
Wanted to keep out the Pandavas out of their
Not giving Pandavas 5 villages.
Okay.
Doing gambling.
Okay, yes, let's take it one. I'm just trying to evaluate. What is it? To send the Pandavas out of where exactly?
his kingdom forest.
Okay, so what they tried to actually burn the Pandavas, isn't it? Burn the Pandavas. In fact, it was not just the Pandavas and their mother.
They sent Pandavas for 13 years.
Okay, so we could say defrauded or stole the kingdom. So stole the Pandavas' kingdom. So they cheated the Pandavas of their kingdom and then sent them to a forest. and then had them exiled. So, anything else? So you said that they didn't. So gambling. But how is that? Okay, cheated the Pandavas of their kingdom. We will evaluate them one by one. Let's make a list of it. You said they refused to give 5 villages. Now, is that a wrong thing to do? Well, you could say
They might avoid war.
they could have avoided war. It was you could say it's a foolish thing to do. That they could have settled the war, but refused to give even 5 villages. Okay, let's list it down. We'll see which are more serious. And avoid war. Okay. Anything else? During the war, did they do anything wrong? What's wrong with that? War means people will be killed.
6v1.
Sorry?
6v1.
Yeah. So killed Abhimanyu unfairly. 6 of them attacked simultaneously. So 6 warriors, 6 Maharathas attacked him together.
Insulted Krishna.
How?
By trapping Krishna.
Okay. It's like it's only attempted to arrest Krishna. So that attempt to arrest itself is an insult. Isn't it? Some police come to somebody's house and they say that the police van comes to somebody's house and they come and they arrest you, put handcuffs around that person. At that time the lawyer comes and stops them from being arrested. But still the fact that handcuffs were put on their hands, that itself is humiliating, that's insulting. They attempted to arrest Krishna. Okay. So these are some wrongs. Maybe something more will come up. But this is what it is. Now what are the wrongs that the Pandavas did? Did the Pandavas do anything wrong?
Yes.
Let's see, what were they?
They killed Dronacharya by giving Ashwatthama his dead tail.
So let's put it this way. Lied to Drona. Lied to have Drona killed. Okay. Anything else? Sorry? It's not one.
Killing Draupadi.
Okay. Then staked Draupadi during gambling. Let's evaluate this one by one.
With the lady.
Sorry?
Through the lady they killed his father.
Through the lady? Okay, so it is, so used Shikhandi to bring Bhishma. They did actually kill him at that time. To fell Bhishma. Fell means that's when he actually fell down. He died later. But okay. Anything else? Which is the most infamous or famous incident? Yes.
Cursing unfair means to kill Karna.
Okay, what was unfair? Don't just say unfair because it's assessment. We'll assess it later. What was it that they did?
Like they turned, Lord Krishna turned night into day and prolonged the war.
He left his.
But when was that got lighted today?
Like in the evening there was no war. There is like war season as well.
Okay.
So by the grace of Lord Krishna, it delayed, night delayed, and Arjuna got a chance to kill. Karna got Arjuna got chance to kill Arjuna, and Arjuna also forgot all this knowledge.
Krishna covered the sun to let Arjuna kill Jayadratha. Okay.
Killing Karna when he doesn't have any weapons.
Okay. Killed Karna while he was on his, he was not on his chariot. He was chariotless. And okay, and not ready. He's not exactly unarmed. He still had his bow and arrow, but he was not fighting. Okay, we'll discuss these incidents. Anything else? One more major incident.
In Kauravas side, Ashwatthama will kill the Pandavas' sons.
Okay, yes. So, Ashwatthama killed sleeping warriors, sleeping soldiers, including Pandavas' sons. That was especially a terrible thing to do. Anything else from the Kauravas side or the Pandavas side?
Pandavas 5 members married only one woman, Draupadi. That is the right thing.
Okay, see, let's focus. I mean, you could go into the ethics of many incidents, but was that a wrong they did to the Kauravas? We are trying to compare, are the Pandavas just as bad as the Kauravas? So there are many things in the Mahabharata which we could question. Alright. In that particular case, it was Vyasdev who said that this is Lord Shiva's blessing from a previous life, and that is being fulfilled over here. So it was exceptional, but it is not wrong because it was done with the blessings of the sages. But anyway, that had nothing to do with the Kauravas specifically. Anything else? No, not question. Right now, we'll make a list. We'll look at the questions afterwards. One important incident.
Made fun of the
Karna Kshatriya Astra, but Krishna did forgotten.
So Karna was not respected, although he is a Kshatriya son.
He has Kshatriya Astra to kill Arjuna, but Krishna did. In daytime, he has forgotten that Astra. Yeah.
But that's Karna's mistake. You know what?
Krishna did that. To forget.
How could see that is anybody forgets anything, you can blame Krishna for that. You know, if you are going to hold Krishna responsible for that, then we can hold Krishna responsible for everything. That was actually, it's not that so much he forgot, he just got so caught up. He was so, in one sense, when he went to the Virat, he had the Shakti Astra, but he was so overconfident or he was so careless. He didn't think he will meet Arjuna over there. That's why he didn't have the Shakti Astra. And then when Ghatotkacha attacked, at that time he got so agitated by the power of Ghatotkacha. He thought that I had to save the day right now. And that's why he used the Shakti Astra. Now Krishna did tell Ghatotkacha go and attack Karna. But that's just a strategy. There's nothing wrong in that. See, in a war there is a strategy. It's like in cricket, you know, if a team is batting and they want to they are batting, they could declare their innings now. But they don't declare and they just keep batting so that the opposite team gets tired. And when their fielders are tired, their batsmen are not fielding, they also get tired. And then they come to bat, they are tired. That's strategy, that's just intelligence. There's nothing wrong in that. So Krishna sending Ghatotkacha to fight against Karna, that was a way Ghatotkacha threatened Karna. Ghatotkacha's power was scary. If good Karna had killed Ghatotkacha without using Shakti Astra, maybe he would have. But he panicked at that time. Whatever went through him, his mind, he used it. He used the Shakti Astra and then he didn't have it for killing Arjuna. There's nothing wrong in that. See, there is strategies which have to be used. And strategies are not considered wrong. Say if you cricket, for example, if a batsman can't play short pitch balls, can't play bouncers, the bowlers deliberately bowl bouncers to that batsman. Is that a wrong thing to do? No, that's your weakness, and the opposite side will exploit your weakness. That's just strategy, that's just intelligence. Okay?
In Kauravas side, the Ashwatthama used Brahmastra through the pregnant lady.
Okay, so let's forget about Ashwatthama right now, because that is almost like after the war got over. Ashwatthama did one, he tried to use Ashwatthama to kill. Ashwatthama tried to use it against Uttara. That is almost after the war is over. But let's focus on the Kauravas and the Pandavas primarily. Okay. So one more incident is where, yes?
Pandavas laughed at Duryodhan in Indraprastha.
Pandavas?
They made fun of Duryodhan in Indraprastha.
Okay, that's a wrong thing. Let's look at it. That's a good incident to evaluate. So, Pandavas laughed at Duryodhan when he fell. Yes. And then in the final battle,
Pandavas built the Mayasabha.
how is that a bad thing?
And Mayasabha insulted the whole Kauravas.
Hey, come on. It's like I have money and I built a house bigger than you, and you feel envious of that. So, am I to be blamed that I have built a bigger house than you? How can you blame? It just say if somebody has greater ability than somebody else. Say if Rohit Sharma bats better than Virat Kohli feels bad. So is that Virat Kohli's problem or Rohit Sharma's problem? Well, you should not feel bad. You are in the same team. Isn't it? It's just one person performs better than another performs. There might be rivalry. But that does not mean that the person who performs better is to be blamed. The Pandavas did not build Maya Sabha to humiliate Duryodhana. That was not their purpose. That was just, they built because that's what the Mayadana, when he was saved, he offered a gift to them. And that's what they built at that time. So, there's one more incident which you, yes please.
So Bhima used his club to kill Duryodhana on the roadside, which was
Yes, that is the one. Bhima hit Duryodhana on the thigh, below the waist. And that is considered unfair. So, yeah.
From Pandavas side, Krishna raised the weapon. From Pandavas side.
Okay, Krishna raised this chakra. That is, now that is almost like a, let's put it is actually sequentially, it comes over here. It comes, Krishna raised his chakra. Well, it's marginally wrong, but let's look at it. So basically you can say the Kauravas did something wrong, the Pandavas did something wrong. And now, are these wrongs equal? That's what we'll try to evaluate. And you may say, on what basis are we going to evaluate? They say, okay, we are devotees of Krishna, Pandavas are devotees of Krishna, so Pandavas are always the good people. So we'll defend the Pandavas. And Kauravas are not devotees of Krishna, so Kauravas are bad people. We're going to criticize the Kauravas. So is it going to be like that? But it shouldn't be like that. So are there some objective criteria by which we can evaluate? So let's try to look at this. Okay? So basically, this whole story, this whole analysis begins with long before that there is a dispute over kingdom, over succession. So Dhritarashtra is the elder brother and he is blind, so he cannot become the king. Then Pandu becomes the king, but then Pandu retires, and then Dhritarashtra becomes the caretaker king. And then neither of them seem to be able to have children. So in the forest, Pandu uses a yoga ritual by which Kunti prays to Devatas and then she gets children. She gets the 5 Pandavas one by one. And Gandhari is blessed by Vyasadeva and she has Duryodhana and the Kauravas. So now Yudhishthir is born slightly before Duryodhana. So therefore we could say there is some dispute over here. Dhritarashtra was the king, then Dhritarashtra's son would become the king. But Dhritarashtra was not the king, Pandu had become the king. Pandu had expanded the kingdom. And Dhritarashtra was the caretaker king. So from there, the Pandu's son, Yudhishthir, his eldest son, would become the king. So we could say there is some ambiguity, some conflict about who should become the king. There's some tension, and that is understandable to some level. That now when this happens, at that time, how do we resolve the things? So, if you consider, there will be, sometimes there is tension. Will I inherit this property? Will you inherit this property? And a kingdom is a big thing. But, while resolving this, when the Pandavas come to the kingdom, the Pandavas just come because their father has died. And the sages tell their mother, Kunti, that the forest has very dangerous animals. It is no place for a person like you to be there. For a woman, a lone woman with small children to be there. Better go back to your kingdom. And the sages go back, take Kunti with them and escort her back to the kingdom. Now, technically speaking, I will make things a little bit more complex and we'll see how much we can resolve this. That it was known that Pandu, because of a curse, could not unite with his wives. And that's why he could not get a child. But in such situations, there was a ritual called Niyog. So in the past, having a child was considered very important for succession. So then, if for some reason the man could not procreate, then some other respectable person would be asked only for that purpose within particular times when the woman is likely to have a child to unite with the blessings of the family, and after that, that man and the woman would have no contact with each other. So that is a principle within Dharma. And in fact, that's how Dhritarashtra and Pandu themselves had been born. So it is a respected ritual. Now in this case, Pandu had asked Kunti that you should do this. The sages are there over here in the forest, and I'll request the sages. It is important for us to have children so that the kingdom goes on. And then Kunti had said that I have this blessing from Durvasa that I can invoke the gods. And she invoked the gods. And that's how they got a child. When they got 3 plus 2 children, 3 from Kunti, and Kunti invoked Devatas for Madri also, Dashini Kumar. That's how they got the 5 children. Now somebody could have questioned the parentage. Whose children were this? When they didn't know, when they knew that Pandu could not beget a child. So the sages went with Kunti to assure the members of the Kuru family that Pandu had approached us for Niyoga, and then they had Niyoga with the Devatas. So basically, Duryodhan would sometimes question the parentage of the Pandavas. But apart from Duryodhan, nobody raised any questions about it. Because the sages had no vested interests. The sages had no reason to lie. So, basically Duryodhan had thought that I am going to be the prince, I am going to be the king. Where does Pandavas come from? They are taking my kingdom. So, from that time his insecurity started. And then he thought, okay, this Yudhishthir, he is older than me, but I am stronger than him. But then he found the very thing that he was proud of, his strength. There was someone among the Pandavas who challenged that. Who was that? Bhima. Now Bhima was just playful. Bhima was strong enough, and sometimes when they would play, Duryodhan would try to attack Bhima, and Bhima was just so strong, Bhima would just pick up Duryodhan and throw him away. And nobody had dared to do this to Duryodhan. Yeah, who do you think you are? Like in school, if there is some bully, some gunda, and everybody is afraid of that person. And then some new boy comes to school and picks up this gunda and throws him away. Oh, naak kat gaya. He felt humiliated. Now, Bhima had no ill intention over there. He was just playing, and Bhima was stronger. So, Duryodhan felt very insecure. He felt angry. Now his emotions are understandable. It's a very important principle. In our situation or our past, it can explain our emotions. So Duryodhan feeling insecure, Duryodhan feeling envious, that's understandable. So our past can explain our emotions, but our past can't excuse our actions. The two are very different things. If I feel insecure, it's okay. But just because I feel envious of you, what happened?
The flash.
Okay. Some mystical connection between that and this? Okay. Or is that projector feeling insecure? Oh, okay. Some loose connection? Okay. Anyway, so see, Duryodhan feeling insecure is understandable. But then what did he do? He tried to poison Bhima. It's a horrible thing to do. Somebody is a competitor, so there is a difference between rivals and enemies. Rivals and enemies are not the same thing. Have you heard this word rivals? Have you heard the word enemies? Enemies definitely you have heard. So what is the difference between rivals and enemies? Say for example, say India's best batsman was say Virat Kohli. Australia's best batsman is, who is that? Some Smith? Steve Smith or someone, whoever it is. So now, are they enemies or are they rivals? Rivals. Rivals means say, both will try to bat as well, both will try to, if there is a championship, they will both will want the batsman of the match award, batter of the match award. But, it is not that, that the Indian batsman is going to put poison in the food of the other batsman, or the other batsman is going to put poison in the food. No, that would make them enemies. So rivalry is where both have the same goal to achieve something, and that leads to competition. But aim is here, even enemies, goal is to destroy the other person only. So in school there may be two students, both want to come first in class. But to come first in class, if one student hires some gundas so that the gundas beat up the other student can't get to the exams, and the first student comes first. Now that is not to be done, isn't it? That's going from rivalry to enmity. So Bhima and Duryodhan were rivals, or that's what they were supposed to be. Both of them were strong, but what did Duryodhan do? He tried to poison Bhima. This is just too much. Just because somebody is better than you, that doesn't give you the right to destroy them. Some people say that, okay, actually Duryodhan was a good person. Shakuni spoiled him. Shakuni made him bad. Well, that's actually bad logic. Why? Because Shakuni was not in the picture when Duryodhan made the plan to kill Bhima by poisoning him. So it was not that Duryodhan was good and Shakuni made him bad. The reality is that Duryodhan was bad and Shakuni made him worse. So this was just completely unprovoked and unacceptable. So Bhima tried to poison them. Bhima was poisoned. But even after that was done, the Pandavas said, let's tolerate it. Let's not make it into a big issue. Bhima wanted to go and confront Duryodhan. So Yudhishthira said, let's not make a big issue out of this. It's our own family. Maybe he was feeling jealous, maybe he was feeling insecure. Let's keep a low profile and let's be on the alert. So they did escalate the issue. They tried to keep it calm, keep it inside the family. Sometimes it happens, somebody inside a family does something bad to somebody else in the family. Now I'll go and register police to complain against you. Others will say, okay, don't do that, It's our own family's name that will be spoiled. So that was what his mood was over there. And they did that, but unfortunately, that didn't lead to, the Pandavas did not escalate it, but Duryodhan escalated it. What did Duryodhan do next? Sorry?
Pushing water.
That's the same thing it was. Same incident. He had him poisoned and then tied him up and threw it in water. That's the same incident only. But the next incident was where he actually manipulated his father so that the Pandavas could be sent to the Lakshagara, to the house of Lak. So he tried to kill one of them first, and when he could not succeed in killing one of them, he decided I'll kill all 5 of them. And not only all 5 of them, even their mother. And their mother had never tried to harm him. Their mother was a respectable elder. Kshatriyas are meant to protect women. So this was, you do one bad thing, and then you do not just repeat the bad thing, but do something far worse. So here, each time we see the Pandavas are not responding. The Pandavas are not responding, but the Kauravas are doing things worse and worse and worse. And the Pandavas survived that by their intelligence and by Vidura's guidance. And the Pandavas won the hand of Draupadi. Now, one thing which many of you didn't mention is that after that, and the Pandavas came back. Now, Duryodhan they had no desire for the Pandavas to come back. But Bhishma told Dhritarashtra that already the citizens are accusing you that you were a part of the conspiracy to kill the Pandavas. It is you who are being defamed. Now you have an opportunity to remove the bad name that has come to your dynasty, to our dynasty. And if you don't care for the bad name, at least consider that now they are Drupada's sons-in-law. Earlier they were just almost like orphans. There was no big supporter for them. But now Drupada would not want his daughter to live in poverty when her husbands were princes. And Drupada was a powerful rival. So Dhritarashtra called the Pandavas back. But then he said, I'll give you half the kingdom. But which half did he give? Khandaprastha. So it was here, if you go, gave barren half of the kingdom. It's like say, say, in a family, 2 children, they come back from school. Maybe they had a late night assignment or something. They come late at night, and mother says, okay, I have just 2 chapatis. I'll give 1 chapati to each of you. But 1 chapati is fresh and with ghee, and the other chapati is dry and stale and smelly. And he says, okay, I'll give 1 chapati to each of you. So, is that fair? No. So, it is like, in namesake it is fair, but it is outrageous. See, in the West there are stories like Snow White and the stepmother, evil stepmother, or whatever, Cinderella and all these stories where there is a stepmother, she has her own daughters and she has this Cinderella is like a stepdaughter. So she externally appears to be equal, but it is like stepdaughterly treatment. You treat unfairly. But the Pandavas accepted that. See, time and time, unfair things are happening to the Pandavas and they are accepting it. They are trying their best to avoid escalating the issue. The Pandavas went to Khandav, and by working extremely hard and by Krishna's mercy, they made Khandav into a flourishing kingdom. And then it became such a flourishing kingdom that it became better than Hastinapur's. This was their hard work. And then they performed the Rajasuya Yajna. And then Duryodhan came, he saw how much wealth the Pandavas have. So he became jealous because of that. And when he became jealous, at that time, he said, I have to do something. Now everybody went back. But he said, I will stay on. Now what was he going to do by staying on? It is a dangerous thing to do. Say, if somebody is an alcoholic and they go to a bar. Now they don't want to drink alcohol, but they are in the bar now. And when they are drinking, what happens? They stay on after everyone is gone. All all that is likely to happen is that they're going to drink more and more. So he stayed there, and the more he saw the opulence of the Pandavas' palace, the more insecure he felt. Now, in some popular retellings of the Mahabharata, it is said that when he fell, Draupadi laughed, the Pandavas laughed at her. And Draupadi said, Andhe ka beta andha. The son of the blind is blind. And the actual Mahabharata, Draupadi does not say anything like this. This is just exaggeration. So did the Pandavas laugh at her? Yeah. They did laugh at him, yeah, they did laugh at him. But what had happened was, he was before that just putting on so much airs. That he was disrespectful to everyone, he was snapping at the servants. He was trying to act as if he is completely unimpressed by all the wealth that the Pandavas have. So sometimes Hindi mein kehte bahut bhaas maar raha hai. Like somebody is just bragging a lot, and somebody is very proud and bragging a lot, and that person acts as if I am such a great person, and that person slips and falls. So then serves you right. So normally if somebody just slips and falls, we will go and help that person. We won't laugh at that person. But somebody is putting on a lot of airs. Somebody is acting very proud and bragging a lot. When that person falls, okay, it serves you right. It feels like that. So the Pandavas laughed. Draupadi laughed, and that was insulting for them. Understandable. But immediately Yudhishthira sent about the servants and gave them some cloth, and he had him clean himself up and change his clothes. But Duryodhana felt humiliated. Now, yes, he did feel humiliated. Maybe you could say this was what the Pandavas did wrong. But it was Duryodhana's behavior which was what prompted the whole thing. He didn't have to stay on. He stayed on. And then he slipped and fell. It is a Maya Sabha. He couldn't figure out what was what. The Pandavas did not create this to cause him to get into trouble. But even if he felt humiliated, it's like a joke. You could make a joke on someone else. Say in April Fool, somebody puts something which looks like a snake in our drawer. We get scared and they laugh at us. Then, we want to get back at them. And we may put something which looks like a snake and they get scared, then we laugh at them. But somebody puts a real snake over there, and the snake bites and the person dies, and we laugh at them. That is completely disproportionate, isn't it? So, Yudhishthira, so what did the Duryodhana said? They humiliated me, I am going to humiliate them. So he had them invited for a gambling match. Now we could say Yudhishthira made a mistake in gambling. Well, yes and no. It is that just after the war, after the Rajasuya got over, at that time, Yudhishthira went to Vyasdeva and he said, "Oh sage, thank you for presiding over our sacrifice. It is by your blessings that the sacrifice concluded successfully. Please bless me so that I can lead the kingdom peacefully and prosperously." And Vyasdeva became grave and he said, "O king, I see a great war in the future. I see much disturbance in the future. The disturbance will culminate in a great war. And after that war, you will have peaceful and prosperous kingdom." Yudhishthira became very grim on hearing this. He started thinking that I don't want a war to occur. I will do everything possible to avoid a war. So he made his own resolution, almost like a vow. He said, a war, what is the cause of a war? A war is caused by unresolved conflicts. When two people have some conflicts and they can't resolve it, then that causes war. And what prevents conflicts from being resolved is disregard of elders or disobedience to elders. See, basically, if two people have a conflict and they both go to an elder, and the elder says this is how we should resolve it. Now, if both sides respect the elder, then the conflict can be resolved. So, but if one side or both sides they don't respect the elder, say you are unfair, you don't understand the situation, then the issue gets escalated, isn't it? So, in the past, elders played the role what judges play today in legal system. It becomes much more complicated because we go to attorneys and it becomes legally complicated. But the principle is there is some authority, and if we accept the authority's verdict, then the conflict can be resolved. So Yudhishthir said, I will always obey my elders, and in this way I will avoid conflict. Avoid conflict that will lead to war. This was his resolution. But unfortunately, he didn't consider what kind of elders he had. So Duryodhan decided through Shakuli's instigation to have the Pandavas brought for a gambling match. He persuaded his father, and his father pressured his half-brother Vidura. So now Yudhishthira had just taken a resolve that I will always obey my elders. And then one elder, Dhritarashtra, who was like his father figure in the absence of his father, sent another father figure, Vidura, to ask him to come for a gambling match. Yudhishthira had no desire to gamble, but he just couldn't say no. And that's how Yudhishthira came for gambling. And then it was a rigged gambling match. Because normally in gambling, it is two people who are equals in some ways are meant to play. So Yudhishthir and Duryodhan had equal wealth, and both of them were amateurs. Amateurs means those are non-professional. There's so many people play cricket on the streets. They play cricket more or less for fun. Or some kids may play boxing. They play it for fun. But suppose somebody who is a ordinary street boxer is put against Mike Tyson. It would be horribly unfair, isn't it? One is a professional and the other is just a complete amateur. So having Shakuni play on behalf of Duryodhan, that itself was utterly unfair. So it was through this unfair gambling match that one by one, everything was stolen from the Pandavas. And some people say that Karna was a good person. Well, maybe, but definitely it was that he did not remain a good person. By Duryodhan's association, he did become contaminated. And in this gambling match, when finally Yudhishthira, after losing everything, stayed Draupadi, and Draupadi was lost. At that time, it was Karna who suggested that Draupadi is your maid now, she is now your slave. Drag her into the assembly and have her disrobed. It's a horrendous thing to do. And he is said, she has 5 wives, 5 husbands. A woman who has 5 husbands is already like a prostitute. What's wrong if you disrobe her? Now calling any woman a prostitute, a respectable, honorable woman like Draupadi, that is horrible. A Kshatriya, Karna always wanted the honor of being a Kshatriya. But when he had the opportunity, rather than acting in an honorable way, a Kshatriya is one who protects women. He acted in a terribly dishonorable way. But to his credit, Karna later regretted what he did. He told Krishna as well as Bhishma later that to please Duryodhana I spoke those things which I should not have spoken. Do you think that Duryodhana regretted what he did? Yeah, Duryodhana also regretted. When Duryodhana did wrong things, he also regretted that none of his wrong plans were successful. He tried to poison Bhima, it didn't work. He tried to have the Pandavas burned, it didn't work. He regretted that his plan didn't work. He didn't regret that I had done something wrong. But now, then they decided to disrobe Draupadi. Now, even if she is their slave, when slaves have to be treated respectfully. horrible thing to do. Generally, if some man molests a woman or violates a woman, generally they would do it on some dark street where there's nobody to be a witness, because they have some fear of the law. But if somebody does such a monstrous act in public, in front of everyone, that means that they have no fear of the law. If somebody goes to a police station or a court and there does something like this, that means not only they don't have any fear of the law has fear of them. That's why they can do something like this. So this was Duryo's situation. All the elders were there. All those who are meant to dispense justice are there. And in front of them he is doing something like this. So we can just imagine how much depraved, how much wicked, how much demoniac such an action is. So in one sense we could say killing the Pandavas and their mother is far more vicious than just disrobing someone. But it's not just disrobing someone. Those activities were done in the dark, not publicly. He had someone else do it so that nobody could blame him for doing it. But here he was doing it in public, and that's far more dangerous. So the Kauravas' bad actions kept doing it worse and worse and worse. And now there are many other things that they did. We can't do an extensive catalogue of all of those things. But eventually, as you mentioned, even after all that had happened, the Pandavas lived in exile, and when the Pandavas came back, they were ready to settle peacefully. They said, Krishna, please try to settle peacefully. And Krishna himself came. Now Krishna coming shows how serious they were about the peace proposal. They right now say, between Russia and Ukraine, a war is going on. Now, if the Ukrainian president personally goes to Russia, or the Russian president personally goes to Ukraine, that would mean they are really serious about the peace effort. And at that time, say the Russian president goes to Ukraine and Ukraine tries to arrest him over there, that would just get the whole nation outraged. They would probably use nuclear weapons immediately to destroy Ukraine. So that's what they tried to do with Krishna. And to his credit, Krishna did not even renege from his terms. Once Krishna had said that, I will give you my Narayan Sena. And Krishna still kept his Narayan Sena with them. So you dare to arrest me? I don't have to give my Narayan Sena to you. Krishna would have said, you try to arrest me? I don't have to stick to my terms then. I will raise my weapons and I will fight against you. Krishna stuck to his principles over there. So this is what the history of all the wrongs that the Kauravas had done. Now when we come to the incidents. So basically, when we are trying to understand, we are trying to weigh the wrongs. Who did what wrong and in what context. So basically, we can say a wrongdoing, it can be evaluated in many different ways. One is that who started it, isn't it? Like two people are caught in a fight. So the police may arrest both of them and put them in handcuffs. But the question is, who started it? Who hit the first blow? I said that person insulted me. Okay, but what did you do before that? So if we consider here who started it, the first poisoning was done by whom? It's clear that he started it. Not only he started it, who repeated it? Who aggravated it? Who aggravated it? That means who kept doing things worse. Again it was the Pandavas each time were tolerating. None of the time the Pandavas tried to escalate things. Who aggravated it? Each time it was the Kauravas. Now, Let's go into the war. And we won't be able to go into details in each of the incidents, but we'll try to quickly overview the incidents. That with respect to, on the 9th day, Krishna lifted the wheel to attack Bhishma. There's a long history behind that. But now, is a wheel really considered to be a weapon? For Vishnu, it's a weapon, but for most people, a wheel is actually very difficult to use to attack someone. A wheel itself is heavy, and a wheel generally is not very sharp. Because if the wheel is too sharp, the chariot wheel, if it's very sharp, the sharp edges will get worn out when the chariot moves on the ground. And then eventually it will become not very useful. So wheel is generally not considered very sharp. So normally a wheel would not be considered to be a weapon. So Krishna had made a vow that I won't lift any weapons, and he lifted a wheel. It is on the borderline whether it's a weapon or not. And on top of that, he actually never used it. And he didn't use it not because the opposite side stopped him. It was his own side someone stopped him. Arjuna only stopped him from doing it. So okay, you can say they tried to do something which was on the borderline of doing something wrong, and then they stopped it. Now, so if we consider after that Krishna's wheel lifting, so we can say it is borderline wrong. It is definitely not anything serious. Then the next day, when they used Shikhandi, this was on the 9th day. On the 10th day, they used Shikhandi. Now when they used Shikhandi also, at this particular point there are two things to consider. First is that Shikhandi was not a woman. Shikhandi was a man. It was, Shikhandi had been a woman in the previous life. And it was Bhishma who had his own principles. That I will not attack someone who was a woman before. Okay, that's his principle. So, if it's your principle, that's okay. But then, that if sticking to your principles becomes a weakness, that's not the Pandavas' problem. On top of that, it was Bhishma himself who gave this idea to the Pandavas. On the 9th night, Yudhishthira and the Pandavas went to Bhishma, and Bhishma told them, this is the way you can bring me down. And it was not that Bhishma could not retaliate. Now Bhishma did not shoot at Shikhandi, but Bhishma was still attacking others. So Arjuna from behind Shikhandi shot at Bhishma. And Bhishma fell. So now we could again call this as borderline wrong. Why borderline? Because of two reasons. There is no principle in law in the war codes that you cannot exploit the weakness of your opponent. But this was a weakness that Bhishma himself had created. So it's like a batsman saying that, there's a particular kind of ball, I will not hit it first. Well, that's your principle. That doesn't stop the bowler from using that, isn't it? If the bowler uses that, it's up to them. So, and Bhishma himself told. So it is not that the Pandavas did. It's something borderline, but you can't call it really wrong. Now after that was the 13th day, when Abhimanyu was killed. And this was not a borderline wrong thing. This was totally wrong. So 6 warriors attacking Abhimanyu simultaneously. That was utterly wrong. And it just showed their weakness. They all tried to challenge Abhimanyu initially one by one. And none of them could succeed. Now Abhimanyu was young, which is 16. And normally, even if somebody has to fight against one warrior, after second warrior, third warrior, fourth warrior, that itself will exhaust the person. Because that person can, if they're defeated, they can go and rest and come back. But this person has to keep fighting again and again and again. Isn't it? So, he was getting tired. And still they could not defeat him. And then 6 of them attacked him simultaneously. And then they destroyed his weapon, they destroyed his shield, they destroyed his armor, they killed his charioteer, they destroyed his chariot. He had practically nothing left. He was trying to use his bow and arrow, he was trying to shoot one person, another person just cut off the string of his bow. And he was just left with nothing. So this was, you could say, almost the most monstrous thing that they did. And Abhimanyu was like that, for the generation of their children. So all of them who killed them, for them Abhimanyu was like a child. Now on the 14th day, Jayadratha was killed. So now there is so the sun, Krishna covered the sun at that time. And then they lowered their weapons and Krishna showed the sun is not covered. And then Arjuna shot an arrow and killed Jayadratha. So now when this happened, this is more of a trick. Is it cheating? Tricking and cheating are not the same thing. So tricking means, sometimes say batsman is running towards the wicket to complete a run, and the wicketkeeper just stands looking as if the ball is nowhere nearby, and batsman thinks, oh, okay, the ball is not coming. The batsman slows down, and suddenly the ball comes, gets caught. Now that is a trick, but that is not considered cheating. That just you get the player to slow down and then use that. So it's like a batsman, bowler comes running very fast and then bowls an extremely slow ball. And the batsman swings his bat and the bat is high up in the sky, the ball slowly comes and knocks off the stump. So it's like creating an appearance of doing one thing and doing another thing. That's just a trick. That is done all the time. So you could call it a deception, but that's again, it's a trick, it's a strategy that is used. So like in a boxing match, one boxer might appear very tired, and the boxer doesn't even seem to hit back, and the attacking boxer is hitting, and the attacking boxer thinks that this person is completely tired, and he slightly lowers his blow, and one knockout punch, and the match is gone. And you should not have lowered your guard at that time. So it was certainly a trick, but trick is not cheating. It was the Kauravas, no one told them to lower the guard. And in fact, there is a bhakti explanation and there is a karmakand explanation. The karmakand explanation is that there was a Surya Grahan at that time. The solar eclipse, and that's why the sun got covered temporarily. And then the eclipse went away and the sun was still there for a few moments. And in fact, historians try to calculate that, like there are descriptions of when eclipses occurred during the Mahabharata. And they calculate, okay, this eclipse and between this eclipse, there was only this period of say 3 months. And then they try to calculate how many years before do 2 eclipses occurred with this much time in between them. And by that they try to calculate the date when Mahabharata actually occurred. This is a field of archaeoastronomy. So either way, it's a trick, it's not cheating. I hope this difference is clear between tricking and cheating. Now, on the 15th day, there was Drona was killed. So here, it seems the Kauravas, the Pandavas clearly did something terrible. They lied. Well, yes and no. Generally speaking, whenever any right or wrong action is to be decided, there are 3 factors to be considered. What was done, why it was done, the content of the action, the intent of the action, and consequence. What resulted from the action. These 3 factors need to be considered to decide what is right and what is wrong. Okay? So from that perspective, from the context perspective, they lied. So we could say that is the wrong thing. But why did they have to lie? Because Duryodhana's constant criticism of Drona. You are the guru of Arjuna, you should be defeating him. You are being weak, you are being partial, you don't want to win. And that's why you're not fighting wholeheartedly. That constant criticism and insult that Drona was doing, that Drona was being subjected to from Duryodhana, got to Drona eventually. And then, in his despair to win, Drona started using celestial weapons against ordinary soldiers. It is like a war is going on and one side suddenly starts using nuclear weapons. It's a horrendous thing to do. It is just something not to be done. Now, it is possible that when one warrior is using celestial weapons, the other warrior also uses celestial weapons. And at that time, that celestial weapon ends up killing soldiers. That happens. That's not wrong. But to use celestial weapons straight against ordinary soldiers when nobody among them has any celestial weapons, that is a horrendous thing to do. It was so wrong, in fact, that the Mahabharata describes immediately there are sages who appeared in the sky. And they told Drona, what are you doing? Stop this right now. Stop it. It's enough. You've done a terrible wrong. Now Drona was troubled by that. Now after this, Krishna told Yudhishthira, if you don't stop Drona now, he will destroy your entire army today. It's important now, what was the Pandavas' plan? As far as Arjuna was concerned, his plan was to arrest Drona, not to kill Drona. His plan was that if Drona lowers his weapons, then he will have him arrested. But as soon as Drona heard that Ashwatthama is killed, and he lowered his weapon. So Drishtadyumna, who had been trying to kill Drona for a long time, Drishtadyumna had been born, or his father Drupada had performed a yajna, so that Drishtadyumna would be able to kill Drona. And Drishtadyumna had come nowhere near killing Drona, and he had become increasingly frustrated by that. And then on that very day, in front of Drishtadyumna, Drona had killed his father. Drona had killed Drupada. So Drishtadyumna was totally frustrated. Not only could I not fulfill my father's desire, not only could I not fulfill the purpose for which my father had given me birth, but I could not even protect my father. And that's why when he saw Drona lowering his weapons and sitting down in yogic posture for meditation, he just charged forward with a sword. Now his action was so terrible that warriors from both sides, the Kaurava side as well as the Pandava side, screamed to him, stop, don't do this. Even Arjuna screamed, stop. But everything happened so fast. Drishtadyumna was the closest to Drona. He charged to Drona, caught Drona by his hair and lopped off his head. And when he did this, the Kauravas just panicked and ran away from the battlefield. Arjuna ran up to Drishtadyumna and was about to attack Drishtadyumna. How could you do this? He was your guru. He was meditating, he was defenseless. At that time, almost internal civil war broke out among the Pandavas. So here the key point is, the killing of Drona was a terrible thing, but it was not a cold-blooded conspiracy. The disrobing of Draupadi, the burning of the Pandavas, that was a cold-blooded conspiracy. The killing of Drona is a bad thing, but it was a hot-headed. What is the difference with cold-blooded? Cold-blooded means calculated, pura jaan bujh ke. Hot-headed matlab gusse mein. It was a hot-headed individual act. It was not a cold-blooded collective act. There's a big difference between the two of them. Okay? Now, after that, on the 17th day. Now, 17th day, Karna was killed. So now here, yes?
Mistake of
let's come to that a little later. Now, was it the mistake of Kunti? Well, Kunti did go to tell Karna.
Not Karna, Pandavas.
But Karna told her, don't tell the Pandavas. She could have not listened to them. But Karna said, you will always have 5 sons. I will not kill any of your other 4 sons. I'll kill one of them. So we'll talk about Kunti a little later. Now there's a difference between something which is wrong and something which is criminal. I hope that the difference is clear. There is something which is immoral. Say like somebody drinks. That may be immoral to drink. But it's not illegal to drink. But to drink and drive, that is illegal. So there's a difference between the immoral and the illegal. So even if for Kunti it was wrong, that was just, maybe that was immoral, or not even, can't call it immoral also. That's a minor wrong. It's not a serious wrong. But we'll come to that a little later. But let's move forward here. Now when Karna was killed, actually speaking, so Karna's chariot started going into the ground. And then he tried to get the chariot out of the ground. And he was not able to get it out of the ground. And while he was trying to pull it out, he called out to Arjuna and said, "Oh Arjuna, remember the codes of morality. And do not entertain thoughts that are entertained only by cowards. Do not attack me while I am engaged elsewhere." Arjuna lowered his bow. And at that time, Krishna spoke. "Oh Karna, it is fortunate indeed that you remember the codes of morality today." He said that evil people forget the codes of morality when they have to do evil. And remember those codes only to save themselves. He says, was it by your codes of morality that you joined with 5 other warriors and tried to kill a 16-year-old Abhimanyu? Was it by the codes of morality that you suggested that Draupadi be dragged to the assembly and be disrobed? Was it by the codes of morality that you participated in the conspiracy to have the Pandavas and their mother killed? Was it by the codes of morality that you laughed as Shakuni robbed the Pandavas of all their kingdom? If that was morality, Arjuna will use that same morality today to kill you. And Krishna told Arjuna, shoot. Now, this particular situation, now what is the unfair thing about it? The unfair thing is 2 things. Karna is not having his weapons ready, and Karna is not on his chariot. So Karna being chariotless, that if you consider that same situation, Arjuna had been on the 14th day. Abhimanyu had been on the 13th day. And Arjuna himself had been that on the 17th day. So when was Abhimanyu on the 13th day? Then 6 of them attacked him. So Abhimanyu was chariotless. And still they attacked him. On the 14th day when Arjuna was trying to reach Jayadratha, at that time their horses got so tired that Krishna said, your horses cannot move any forward. They need some rest. So Arjuna used some mystic powers and he created a lake with grass. And Krishna said, bravo. And Krishna took the horses there and he fed the horses. And while the horses rested and recovered, Arjuna was on the ground. And the Kauravas started charging on him from all sides. And Arjuna was whirling around and fighting and protecting himself. So at that time Arjuna did not say, hey, I'm on the ground, it's unfair to attack a warrior who's on the ground. It was a brutal fight. And on that very day, earlier when Karna was attacking Arjuna, so there was a snake warrior, Ashwasen. He entered into Karna's bow. And when Karna shot the arrow towards Arjuna, Arjuna thought, yeah, this is just an ordinary arrow, my armor will take care of it. So he did not really bother about that. So So when that arrow came forward, Krishna recognized this is the Sarvastra. And Krishna banged his foot on the chariot. And at that time the chariot sank into the ground. When the chariot sank into the ground, the arrow that was meant to cut off Arjuna's head knocked off his crown. And Arjuna's chariot then was under the ground. And Arjuna don't tell Krishna, no, stop, don't shoot me now. Arjuna jumped down of the chariot, lifted up the chariot quickly, got it out of the hole. Because if Krishna had pounded his foot on the ground, the chariot had sunk in. So Arjuna had to get it out. So the situation that Karna had been in, Karna was now in, Arjuna had been in a similar situation. So it was a brutal war, and nothing was done to Karna that had not been done to him before. So we could say it was unfair, but that same unfairness had been done before by the Kauravas. Okay? And then after that, Duryodhana killed. So now this is, so we could say it is unfair, but it was fair payback. You know, payback means जैसे करने वैसे भरने, जो तुमने किया है तुम्हारे साथ किया गया. It was a fair payback. So now Duryodhana being killed, what had happened was it had become like a rigged match. What do I mean by the rigged match over here? That, see, by Gandhari's intervention, by Gandhari giving Duryodhana a blessing, now whatever Bhima would do, he could not defeat Duryodhana only. Isn't it? He had become invincible. So it's like, say, a cricket match is going on and somebody just comes in, a third party, and changes the rules. So this batsman, even if this batsman is clean bowled, even the batsman ball hits the leg when the leg is right in front of the stumps, even this person is caught, even this person is run out. Whatever you do, this batsman never going to be declared out. Now what is the bowler to do? The bowler may bowl the best bowling spell of their life. But the rules are changed and the match is rigged so that the batsman can never get out. What is the bowler to do at that time? That was Bhima's situation. Bhima fought like never before. Twice Bhima hit Duryodhana with such force in a fair match. He hit him with such force that a mountain would have cracked apart. And the force was such that Duryodhana was flung far away. But when Duryodhana fell down and landed on the ground, he just grinned. Nothing happened to him. On the other hand, Duryodhana was not a poor fighter. Duryodhana was also hitting Bhima. And Bhima was getting injured. And at one particular point, Duryodhana landed a severe blow on Bhima. And Bhima was severely injured by that. But Bhima somehow did not show any emotion at all. And that took Duryodhana back. Hey, I know I have some blessing. Does Bhima also have some blessing? How is he not hurt by it? If Bhima had shown even the slightest pain at that time, then Duryodhana would have attacked instantaneously and Bhima would have been killed. So Bhima somehow, by the power of his heroism, by his will, by not showing any pain when he was injured, survived that. But Bhima realized, this cannot go on. Next time he's going to hit me and I will not be able to act as if there's no pain. And then he'll hit me again and he'll kill me. So that is when Bhima decided, this match has been made unfair against me. So what do you do at that time? If the rules are changed so that you're put in a situation which is unwinnable, then you have to change the rules. So was what Bhima did wrong? Well, yes. But the whole match was wrong. Gandhari coming in and giving a blessing like that to her son out of her love had changed the games of the match, changed the rules of the match. So the only vulnerability that Bhima could find, he had to use that. It's like if the batsman cannot get out, and the only thing the bowler can do is just throw the ball at the head of the batsman and get him retired out. Attacking and injuring the batsman so the batsman gets retired hurt. That's not a good thing to do. But if the rules are changed, such a batsman cannot get out only. The bowler is bowling and bowling and bowling, and the bowler is getting tired, and the batsman is never going to get out. So yes, it was the wrong thing, but the whole situation was wrong. And the Bhima had to do what he had to do at that particular time. And of course, at the end, what Ashwatthama did was horrible. Killing the Pandavas' sons when they were all sleeping. And then trying to destroy the entire army. So the point over here is that did the Pandavas do wrong things? Yes. The Kauravas do wrong things? Yes. But are the two wrong things the same? Not at all. The Pandavas were provoked. The Kauravas did many wrong things without any provocation. So I said, how do we decide what is the wrong thing? Where did it go? Okay. Okay, who started it was one thing. Who aggravated it? And third was there any alternative? So the Pandavas did something wrong when they were left with no alternative. The Kauravas always had alternatives. The Kauravas had perfectly respectable alternatives. Pandavas have your kingdom, then you have your kingdom. The Pandavas give them at least 5 villages. So each of the wrongs that the Pandavas did, either it was not a wrong, it was just a trick. But even if it is a wrong, it was when they had no alternative left. When something similar or far worse had been done to them before. In that same war, Abhimanyu's killing had been against the rules of war. So when they decided you break the rules against Duryodhana or Karna, it was fair game. But it was when there was no alternative left for them. Especially with respect to Duryodhana. For the Kauravas, it was not the case like that. So, I'll conclude with one last point. See, the Gita itself tells Arjuna, Sarva Rambhahi Doshena, 1848. It says sometimes life does not give us a good choice. So, we have to make the best among two bad choices. And Krishna tells Arjuna that, okay, killing your relatives is not a good thing. But if you don't kill your relatives, what are they going to do? They will kill you, they'll kill your family. But on top of that, after that, if people like Duryodhana have unchallenged power, how much harm will they do to the world? And you are a protector. You will fail in your duty if you don't kill them. So sometimes life just does not leave us with a good choice. So if there are two bad choices, then we have to evaluate. This is a bad choice, this is a bad choice. So then we need to evaluate which is worse. And then do which is the less bad. So this was the whole Mahabharata happens at the start of Kali Yuga. And Krishna is actually through his examples demonstrating what is going to happen in Kali Yuga and how we need to deal with it. One of the great mysteries in Indian history is how India, which was such a powerful kingdom, was repeatedly attacked by so many invaders. And many times it was different invaders only fighting for India or fighting for different parts of India. So there are many reasons for it. Indian kings were disunited and many other reasons were there. But one of the things was that Indians did not understand what Krishna taught through the Mahabharata. What does that mean? See, there were times when Islamic invaders exploited the weakness of the Hindus. They knew that Hindus respect cows. So what they would do is, in front of their armies, they would put cows. And the Hindu soldiers would think, oh, how can we attack cows? And they would not attack, and from behind the cows, the Islamic soldiers would attack. And then they would just slaughter the Indians. Or if the Hindus and the Muslims will be on two sides of a river waiting to fight, the Muslims would kill some cows and put the flesh and the blood of the cows in the river. And then Hindus would think, oh, how can we drink the blood of a cow? And they would not drink the water, and they would become weak. And then the Muslims would attack and they would kill them. So now, yes, you should not drink a cow's blood, certainly not. You should not kill cows. But in not killing those few hundred cows that were there, what was the result? They lost the war, and then thousands and millions of cows were killed. Eventually, when the Islamic invaders won. Now you can say the Islamic invaders are bad. Well, that can be said, but they just exploited the weakness. So the Hindu rulers should have learned from Krishna that Shatho Shatyam. Shatho Shatyam means with the cunning, we need to be cunning. If somebody is trying to exploit our weaknesses, or somebody is trying to exploit our goodness as a weakness, and we should not let that be exploited. So that is a lesson that Krishna is teaching us. And if we don't learn that lesson, then it is we who are going to be fooled. It is we who will be exploited. It is we who will be persecuted. So yes, doing the right thing is difficult. But just because two sides do wrong things does not mean both sides are equally bad. There is a history, and we need to evaluate overall which side has morality on its side prominently and which has immorality on its side. So Krishna says every endeavor is covered by fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. But we need to evaluate in the bigger picture which is the right thing to do. So I'll summarize. The broad issue was, are the Pandavas and Kauravas equally bad? So that is the topic which we are discussing today. And when we are discussing the topic, we discuss various principles, but I'll quickly summarize. Are the Pandavas, Kauravas equally bad? The first point we discussed was, we made a list of the wrongs done by the Pandavas and the Kauravas. And then, when the wrong was, here we discuss along with the list the principle of how there are moral and ethical choices. So there can be moral choices, means one side is right and one side is wrong. Ethical is where both sides have something good and have something bad about it. So the Mahabharata often presents us, if you see what the Kauravas had were, the Kauravas often had moral choices and they made immoral choices. The Pandavas had ethical choices and they made the best among two bad options. So we discussed the list of events. So initially at least it is the Kauravas who were doing wrong and the Pandavas who were tolerating. The Pandavas were not escalating. The Kauravas were doing wrong and they were escalating, they were doing more and more wrong. So then we discussed how broadly who started it, who escalated it, and who had alternatives and who did not. So if we consider from this perspective, the Pandavas are certainly better than the Kauravas. Because the Kauravas deliberately provoked and did wrong. And the last lesson we discussed was that sometimes with the cunning, Shatho Shatyam. With the cunning, we need to be cunning. This is Krishna's lesson for Kali Yuga. Are there any questions or comments?
Once you go to the list of wrongdoings between Kauravas, what if you place tolerating in Pandavas side? They were keeping on tolerating things. What if you have placed 3 boys in the beginning only?
See, that is the question now. When somebody is tolerating, is it a good thing, is it a bad thing? It's now in the retrospect. we can see they were becoming worse and worse. So maybe they should not have tolerated at that time. So, but at that, in hindsight, they're saying that in hindsight, everybody's vision is 20 by 20. You can say like after a cricket match, when somebody has lost the match, and they say, no, the captain should have given the ball to this bowler, the bowler should have bowled like this, or this bowler should have been given bowling first, or the fielder should have been kept over there. After that, we can always say it should have been done like this, or should have been like that. Now, from the Pandavas' perspective, in that situation, so when the Pandavas tolerated, it was both a matter of principle that it's our family, let's not escalate the issue, let's not bring it into public. Now, did the Pandavas know that the Kauravas were going to go so bad? They learned from experience. See, the Pandavas were shocked each time what the Kauravas did. So Bhima's killing was a shock for them. By the time when they tried to have the Pandavas killed, the Pandavas were ready for it. The Lakshadra, they were alert. But in Draupadi's disrobing, they were completely shocked by this. So it was a matter of principle. Secondly, it was also a matter of strategy. In the sense that at that time, the Pandavas were orphans. They had just come new from the forest to the kingdom. And if they had complained against the Kauravas, now who would have listened to them? Would Dhritarashtra have listened to them? Unlikely. Would Bhishma have listened to them? Would Drona have listened to them? Did they have any hard evidence that this was done by them only? They didn't have that. So, now were the Pandavas strong enough to fight against the entire Kaurava army with Bhishma and Drona against them? It was not sure they would have done that. Later on, at Virat, when Arjuna held back the entire Kaurava army, that is a spectacular feat. But Arjuna had performed tapasya, and Arjuna had got celestial weapons at that time. So at these times, it was not clear that the Pandavas could have done much. Okay, so it was both a matter of principle and strategy that they tolerated. Okay? Any other questions?
Why there was need to stake Draupadi?
Why was there a need to stake Draupadi? Yes. See, these kind of incidents, I don't have the time to go into everything, but the incidents in scripture can be understood at 4 different levels. You can use the acronym LEAD for that. At a literal level, it's just an entertaining story. At an ethical level, we consider which a character did a right thing or a wrong thing. At an allegorical level, we look at the symbolism, like Ravan represents lust, or the 6 sons of Devaki who were killed, they represent the lust, anger, greed, pride, and illusion. And there's a devotional level. So at the devotional level, it's just the Leela of the Lord. So at a devotional level, everything that happened here was to ultimately demonstrate that even when we have many protectors, still we will be put in a situation where we have no protector. And then only Krishna can protect us. That is at the devotional level. Now at the ethical level, as I said, Yudhishthir was pressured into gambling. He didn't want to gamble. It was not that he wanted to earn any money, get any money from it. In fact, he said right at the start, "Oh Duryodhan, why do you want to steal from me the wealth with which I want to serve the Brahmanas? I want to serve society." So Duryodhan said, "I don't want to steal anything. It's just a match." Now, he knew it was not just a match. But when he started gambling and losing, he started thinking, I have to take care of my family, I have to serve the Brahmanas. I should have something with me. And in that hope of trying to have something, he kept gambling more and more. He was thinking, just to win one match, I'll gain something back and then we can stop. So later on, Yudhishthira does acknowledge that I got carried away, that I should have stopped gambling. At a particular time. So his gambling up to the point of gambling Draupadi was excessive. We can say that he should not have done that. Arjuna also told Yudhishthira to stop, enough is enough now. Rajyudhishthira student listen. So his gambling itself was under pressure, but his gambling so much was also under another kind of pressure which he could have avoided. Okay. Any other questions?
Karna was insulted in war, not in war, test of war. He is Sudra, he cannot.
Okay. Now Karna's situation is a complicated situation. Because the fact is that in this world, from this world's perspective, from this life's perspective, everybody has something unfair to them. So if you consider Karna's situation and Arjuna's situation. Now, if you look at the list of unfair things, at one level, Karna didn't get Kshatriya honor or facility. That's a terrible thing. But Arjuna, he didn't get ordinary safety also. Isn't it? See, as a child, his brother was poisoned. And when he was just a teenager, his whole family was attempted to be burned. And can you imagine if once we have been attempted to be poisoned and we have to stay in that same house every single day after day? How much anxiety would be there? Karna had no such anxiety. So who is to decide who had a more difficult child? There's something bad that happened to Arjuna also. Now Karna can say, why did I do that to not deserve this honor of Kshatriya? Well, Arjuna can say, what did I do to deserve this? Somebody having been constantly at my trying to take my life or take the life of my family. So bad things happen to both of them. So life is unfair in some ways. But the key thing is, what decisions do we make? Do we continue to be unfair or do we choose to become fair? So Arjuna befriended Krishna, Karna befriended Duryodhana. So now Arjuna Krishna friendship was there, Karna Duryodhana friendship was there. So now at this point Karna might not have known that what kind of character Duryodhana had. Duryodhana just helped me when I was in need. That's fair enough. But eventually when he realized what kind of person Duryodhana is, say in some poor place in Pakistan or Afghanistan, there is some orphan child who is dying of starvation. And some people say, we'll feed you, we'll clothe you, we will educate you. He feels very grateful. But after that he finds out that these people who are feeding me are terrorists and they are training me so that I can become a terrorist and I can kill innocent people. Then does gratitude to those who saved his life require him to also become a terrorist and kill innocent people? No. Gratitude is an important value. But there are other values to also be considered. So Karna, he faced unfair situations, faced bad situations, but he also made bad decisions. So that's how eventually he was doomed. So life is unfair to everyone. But we need to make the best out of that, not worst out of that.
Why Karna will participate in the 11th day?
Okay, why did Karna participate in the 11th day?
The war.
Yeah, because Bhishma wanted that somehow the war should not happen. Or if the war happens, the war should not go for too long. So with that end, when Karna tried to boast about his power, and everybody was giving their estimate in how much time they can defeat the opposite army. So Bhishma gave an estimate, I will defeat my army in this much, opposite army in this much time. And Karna said, I can do it in half the time. And then Bhishma got annoyed by that. Bhishma said, Karna, you boast so much, but what is your record? Have you once been able to defeat Arjuna? No, you say you are better than me, but you were defeated by Arjuna in Virat. So when have you ever won against Arjuna? So at that time, in order to cut down Karna's boasting, Bhishma evaluated Karna and says he's not a Maharati, he's Ardharati. Now that was to some extent unfairly low evaluation. But that was because Karna was bragging too much. So Karna felt humiliated by that, and he said that as long as Bhishma is the commander, I will not fight for him. Because if I fight under him and I gain victory, he will get the credit. So he said he has not given me due respect, so I don't want to give him the credit for the victory that I will bring. And that's why as long as Bhishma was the commander, he refused to fight. Now as far as Kunti not revealing to Yudhishthir, it was a difficult decision. In those times, for a woman to have a child before marriage, it was all a complicated situation, so she did not reveal to anyone. Just before the war, she went to Karna and revealed it to him. Her purpose was to somehow get Karna to not fight against the Pandavas. Now, she wanted that none of her sons should fight with each other. She wanted to avoid the war itself. But the best chance of doing that was Duryodhana was not going to listen. But if somehow Karna listened, and Karna decided I will not fight on the Kauravas side, then even Duryodhana's confidence would go down. If Duryodhana's confidence went down, then Duryodhana would not fight. Then maybe Duryodhana would not fight, or the fight would not go on for so long. In that way, the war could be avoided. Actually, Krishna also did that. Krishna first tried to persuade Duryodhana. When he couldn't succeed persuading Duryodhana, then he turned towards Karna and he talked with Karna also. So the point here is that these things were different strategies that were used. Now, could Kunti have told the Pandavas? It's possible, but then it is a complicated situation. Now, Karna, what happened was, he said that I want to kill Arjuna, or I will die fighting with Arjuna. He said he was so longing for honor. He said that if Yudhishthir comes to know that I am his brother, then he will not fight against me. And then I want to prove that I am better archer. So better you don't tell them. And if you don't tell them, then I promise you that I won't kill any of your other 4 sons. You always know you have 5 sons, you will always have 5 sons. But this was not what Kunti asked for. Kunti was just telling him that you come on the Pandava side. So he gave her something else. So Kunti did not speak to the Pandavas. So it was a complex situation. And even if you call it a mistake, it is an understandable situation. And Karna prevailed on her at that time. And she decided to go ahead with that. So if Karna had said that I will talk with Duryodhana and I'll let him give at least 5 villages, then the whole war could have been avoided. But Karna unfortunately did not try to do that also. Yeah. So one or two last one, yes, ma'am.
Arjuna would save Abhimanyu with the Paspata Astra. Why didn't save?
Why did Arjuna not so Abhimanyu save Abhimanyu? Because Arjuna was sidetracked. That the Kauravas had one of their very powerful generals, Susharmani, challenge Arjuna and divert Arjuna to the side. And they had Arjuna go far away from the main battle. And after Arjuna had gone far away, then they quickly reformed their army so that the Chakravyuh was formed. So Arjuna was fighting far away elsewhere. Arjuna didn't even know that Abhimanyu was in trouble. That evening when he came back, only then he realized that Abhimanyu has been killed. Is there one question here somewhere? Okay, last question. Stop with this.
What is the solution for the Razakari system?
For
The Razakari system, if they are being started there.
which system?
The Razakari. Forceful conversion of Hindus to Muslims.
Okay, so this has got nothing to do with the Mahabharata specifically. Okay. See, there are different ways to look at these things. Religion can be a spiritual path to God, but religion can also be a political path to power. It depends on how religion is used or misused. So now we have to be realistic. Ideally, the purpose of various religions was to provide people pathways to God. And there are many people who have tried to come closer to God through different religions in this world. But Krishna talks that there is Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna in this world. And people who are in Sattva-guna, they will practice their Dharma, their whatever religion they are having, and to try to come closer to God. But people who are in Rajoguna or in Tamoguna, for them religion is more a path to power. One is I will become more powerful, the other is I will destroy you. So when religion is being used this way or abused this way, then we have to respond appropriately. So that means we also have to gain political power. We also have to make sure that if somebody is forcibly converting, then we have defensive measures for that. So in the history of the world, just because somebody is right does not mean necessarily the world will consider them to be right or they will have the right results. They also have to get the appropriate resources. See, there is good intention, but good intention is not a substitute for good intelligence. You may have good intentions, but you need to have good intelligence also. So good intelligence means if we see somebody is using a particular strategy, then we have to find out how to counter that strategy. So in many ways, if we consider where Islam originated, in the Middle East, there was the Mesopotamian civilization over there, the Assyrian civilization. That was also the place where the Parsi, Zoroastrianism was there. All those things have been completely annihilated over there. Now the Islamic rule was there in India for at least 600-700 years. It is the resilience, the staying power of the Sanatan Dharma, that in spite of Islamic rule being there for so long, the Sanatan Dharma was not annihilated. It still survived. So as compared to the situation few hundred years ago, the situation now is not that bad. And it can become better if we become more resourceful. So we have to take whatever measures are required for protecting Dharma. Okay? So the Jews are examples of how people who may be very small in number, but they have taken measures by which they protect themselves. And we also need to do that. So thank you very much. Shri Krishna Bhagwan ki Jai. Shri Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna.